Have you ever wondered what is the cheapest way to make a house look expensive? The answer is lighting. If you're not sure of how to begin your renovation, go to Home Trust. Home Trust is Singapore's leading renovation platform that matches homeowners with trusted interior designers. On the main page, simply click the Get Recommendations feature and answer a few simple questions to get matched with reputable IDs. From there, you can check out their portfolios and take a look at their reviews. Did you know that Home Trust do not delete negative reviews? This is where Home Trust stands out, by providing the promise of trust and transparency to homeowners like ourselves. If you want to know more, make sure you visit their website at hometrust.sg. I remember in our parents' generation, homeowners are all obsessed with brightness. Back then, we wanted our houses to be very bright at every corner. I remember when my parents took me out to shop for lights, they would choose those with as high wattage as possible because brighter means better. In the end, all our houses look like this. One big and powerful light at the center of the ceiling with no contrast. The entire house looks very flat and dull. Without any variations in brightness, the eyes will not know where to look at. Now, if your aim is to just have something that works, this is indeed the cheapest way to create a livable space. But for homeowners who care about aesthetics, then you may want to pay attention to creating contrast. Contrast is the most important concept in home lighting, which is what I aim to explain in this part 1 of our lighting video. Contrast means that not everything needs to be bright. In every room, you need to spread out your lights such that there are brighter areas and darker areas. When everything is bright, there will be no feeling or not romantic at all. Take a look at this video in our living room. This clip is taken in a day. Imagine every time you go home, walk through the main door, what is the first thing that you will see? You'll be looking at the view outside. Because in the day, that is the only source of light. This is the exact same clip at night. Same thing, imagine coming back home after work. What is the first thing you will look at? It is no longer the window, it is actually the furniture, especially the wall art because there is a spotlight there. This means that our human eyes will naturally look towards the brighter areas. With that in mind, think about placing your lights to brighten areas you want to focus on. This can be your furniture, your decor, and for areas without anything interesting, it is perfectly okay for it to be dark. Remember this tip, brightness is easy, but contrast is difficult. In order to have contrast, it cannot be done with a single light source. You need at least 3 in every room. And I hope to explain this lighting design concept in a step-by-step framework where most homeowners can apply to your renovation regardless of whether it is a BTO, resale, or condo. Step number 1. The first layer of light you want to have is ambient lighting. Think of it as the foundation layer of light that evenly lights up the entire place. The lighting fixture doesn't matter, it can be track lights, chandeliers, spotlights, it doesn't need to be on the ceiling as well. You can even use floor lamps or table lamps also. Unless you have no choice, try not to use the giant ceiling floodlights or even those ceiling fans with lights because it draws attention up to your ceiling, making the house look shorter. I will explain in more detail in part 2 of the video. For our living room and bedroom, I use cove lighting. The key to ambient lighting is not to make it so bright, so that the other areas of the house can stand out. If it is too bright, you still need to find another even brighter light to create contrast. So for ambient lighting, as long as you can see, won't knock into the surroundings, that is good enough already. You can consider to buy those lights with adjustable brightness. We use our living room as an example. This is 100% brightness. In real life, we adjusted this brightness down to 15% and that is good enough already. We can move around the house without knocking into anything. Remember, can see, can already. With ambient lighting, technically the house is already livable. But if that is the only lighting in the house, we will have a huge problem, which is shadows. You realize that whatever you're trying to do, like cooking or reading, your body will cast a shadow on what you're trying to see. And the solution is also really simple. Just add light to wherever you require them. Which brings us to the next step, which is task lighting. As the name suggests, these are areas where you're performing tasks. And unlike ambient lighting, you need it to be bright. So have a look at your house, think about where you'll be performing your day-to-day tasks like cooking, dining, reading, studying. Let me show you some examples. In the kitchen, we'll be cooking and chopping food on the countertop. Therefore, this strip of LED underneath the top cabinet allows us to see properly. I also covered that in our kitchen tour video, where it can be dangerous if you cannot see what you are chopping, so do not skip it. In our dining area, we use recessed spotlights for our dining table. This makes our food look more appetizing. Have you been to houses without lighting in the dining area? The dining experience will also become very sad and dull. So be it spotlights, track lights, pendant lamps, or recessed lights like ours, please get a dining light. Even if it's a table lamp, like this, it is still better than nothing. Here's an example in the bathroom. For ladies, most of you will be doing your makeup here. Men like us will probably not understand how important it is to have direct lighting on the face in order to do makeup. Otherwise, if your wife accidentally put lipstick on her face, you'll have an interesting time eating dinner together. In our study room, we have these track lights above our wardrobe so that we can see and find our clothes at night. Some of you may use inner wardrobe LED strips, and that's perfectly fine as well. For us, we position our track lights here so that when the doors are closed, the light can still double up as an accent lighting to highlight the textures here on the wardrobe doors. On the opposite side, we also have task lighting for our work activities on the computer table. In our living room, we have a reading spotlight for reading. Honestly, I don't use it much, but sometimes when our in-laws or parents come over here to read books and newspapers, this can be very useful. But for the most part, this spotlight is also meant to double up as an accent lighting to highlight the subtle wood grains here on our wall panels. And so, the whole idea of task lighting is to add light to areas that you think will require them. So if you feel, this area too dark, let's add another one. This area not so bright, so let's add another one. After you have ambient and task lighting, you will already achieve the goal of spreading your lights and have brighter and darker areas. In Mandarin, we call it 灯光分散，有明有暗. In simple terms, that is contrast. And that brings us to our third layer of lighting, which is accent lighting. Unlike the task lighting, the purpose of accent lighting is purely for aesthetics. In our house, the most obvious example is the wall art over here, where we have an accent spotlight to create focus on the wall art. Because remember, our eyes will naturally be drawn towards brighter areas and avoid darker areas. Same for this wall over here, where we have a spotlight on top to highlight the textures created by our lime wash paint. At the bottom, we also have a layer of LED strip to give our console a floating effect. In our kitchen, we have another line of LED strip underneath the cabinets. Think about it, does it serve any function? Not at all. Accent lighting here is purely for aesthetics. In this case, it makes the cabinets look less bulky. Same for the bathrooms, where we have accent lighting below the cabinet. So if you don't know how to add accent lighting, just add LED strips below any suspended surface. You can't go wrong with that. In fact, we have LED strips for every room in the house, including the service yard. In our sleeping room, we have another round of LED strips under the bed. This is not purely for aesthetics. At night, when we get out of bed, it can be helpful for us to find our way around the completely dark room. And there we have it. As long as you can master the 3 types of lights, you will achieve visual contrast, and that translates into a better looking house. The sequence also matters in your planning. Think of it as a hamburger. You'll need the bun first, which is the foundation of the burger, equivalent to ambient lighting. After that, you'll start placing the most important ingredients like your protein, your vegetables, and that will be the task lighting. At the end, you include your toppings, sauces, and seasoning to give it a kick in the flavors. This is accent lighting. When you have all 3 elements, you end up with a very tasty burger, and in a home lighting context, you get a better looking house. Again, to recap, for ambient lighting, take note that it cannot be too bright. For task lighting, add them to areas that reflect your daily activities that require brightness. Finally, use accent lighting to draw attention to areas of interest. Here's another angle in the same living room. Step 1, Step 2, and Step 3. For the average first-time homeowner like ourselves, knowledge on lighting is not something that we will naturally have. When we look at 2 photos of the same room side by side, most of us can say that, oh, one is nicer than the other. And upon closer inspection, we can tell that there is some difference in the lighting. But in order to explain why one is better than the other, it requires a bit of practice and experience to be able to spot the 3 types of lighting in the same room. After that, you can start applying them to your house. For those of you who are interested, after watching this video, you can go and visit the nearest IKEA outlet and take a look at their mini showrooms. Inside IKEA, there are many live setups of kitchens, living rooms, study rooms, even toilets. From there, you can pay attention to the different types of lights they use. Let me show you an example here. Here's a photo taken at the branch in Jurong East. Can you count how many lights there are in this one room? Now, based on what I explained earlier, can you identify the 3 types of light in this room? Here's another example in the kitchen. Now, after you practice a few times and get familiar with identifying these three kinds of light, you can try to see how to incorporate them into your own house. If you need more examples, you can also go back to check out each room in my home tour series video, where I show you all our lightings used in each room. Many of you may have this question, including Lady Boss, who also asked me before. You have so many lights in the house, what about your electricity bills? Not to worry, this is a photo I took at a local hardware store for a typical ceiling light. The wattage is 36 watts. On the other hand, we use this kind of spotlights all over our house. This is 7 watts each. This means that if you turn on that 36 watts giant light in your ceiling, it is the same as turning on 5 of this spotlight all together at the same time. So imagine eating your breakfast, lunch, dinner and supper all in the same meal. What you get is indigestion, as compared to having many smaller meals at more frequent intervals. The amount of food you eat is exactly the same. Additionally, most lightings in the market are using LED, where energy efficiency is super high. This means that very little energy is required to make a bulb very bright, as compared to the past where our parents are using incandescent or halogen bulbs, where we see 60 watts and 100 watts light bulbs in order to achieve the same brightness. Therefore, even if you use more electricity on lighting, the difference in utility bills will be very negligible, perhaps only $20 or $30 difference in 1 year. The main culprit for high electricity bills are usually your aircon, water heater, induction cooker, and kitchen appliances. The next concern is lighting control. You have so many lights in the house, how to remember which button can turn on which light? This is where you can consider grouping lights together. You don't have to allocate one switch to every individual light. You can always plan for multiple lights to be turned on at the same time, or even two-way switches which can be useful in the bedroom. For this, you need to do some planning beforehand to know exactly which switch will control which light. If you are using smart switches, grouping also becomes much easier because every button on the switch can be used to control any other button on other switches, creating endless possibilities of light grouping. As you can already expect, light planning and electrical works go hand in hand, so you will need to coordinate very closely with your electrician to get what you want. Check out our electrical works video for more information. As mentioned before, lighting knowledge can be very complex and profound. And full disclaimer, I'm not an expert or have prior experience beforehand. These are just some of the stuff that I learned over the internet during the 5.5 years while waiting for key collection, and I compile them in a video like this to help out current and future homeowners. Originally, after my home tour videos, I wanted to talk about renovation cost breakdown and renovation regrets. But after going through some of your comments, it seems that nobody is interested in these topics yet. But instead, many of you have asked me to do a lighting video first. This video was initially planned for 2026, but since there's so much demand, I may as well do it now. So help me to click the like button, and if there's any other topic you want me to cover, do let me know in the comments as well so that I know which to prioritize. And with that, this is just part 1 of our lighting guide. In the next part, I'll talk about the lighting fixture hardware itself and what to look out for when buying your lights. If you learned something new today, please drop me a like. If you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments and we shall see you in the next video. Bye!